All right, we are recording.
All right, it is 1 p.m. on May 19th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Land Use Review Board. I am Janet Hurley, the chair of the board. I'm going to ask each board member to introduce themselves as they appear on my screen. Sarah?
Sarah Had, present.
Alex?
Alex Weinhagen. Hello, everyone.
Brooke?
Brooke Dingledine, present.
Kirsten?
Kirsten Sultan, present.
All 5 board members are present. Okay, and we are recording. First item on the agenda is any changes to the agenda. Does anyone have changes to the agenda? See, no, yes, no nodding heads, only shaking heads. Okay. We can move on to opportunity for public comment, although we don't have any public present. Correct, Maddie? Nobody's there in person? So we can move on to consent agenda and review and approve April 28th, May 1st, and May 7th, 2025 meeting minutes. So can I, Kirsten, go ahead.
Oh, if it's okay, I was just going to make a motion to review and approve the April 28th, May 1st, and May 7th meeting minutes as drafted and as revised to incorporate any edits in today's board meeting conversation.
Okay, Sarah?
I'll second that. However, I do, for the May 7th, under section E, last sentence, we should change city to village.
Was a second, any other discussion?
I had one minor change on the April 28th minutes. On page 2, between the sentences or paragraphs starting with Kevin Anderson and Susan Baird, and I emailed this to Maddie and Rebecca. I would like to add the following sentence. Kirsten Sultan and Aaron Brondike mentioned that other Act 250 regional offices also formerly had higher levels of staffing. Was part of that discussion, and there's been substantive content added to the minutes as, reflected in the more recent draft. So I think it's a minor change to add that one sentence.
Okay. Those 2 changes, any other discussion? Okay, so we have a motion, and all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Is unanimous. Those meeting minutes from all 3 meetings are approved with the 2 changes that were just described. Kirsten, you said you emailed that new sentence to Maddie and Rebecca?
Yes, and I copied you, Janet.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the sentence in blue. Thank you.
Got it. Next is studies and reports, process and updates. I'll start first with the regional plan review. Sarah and I have met with Rebecca a number of times, and we are almost through the guidelines that we've developed, the inward-facing guidelines, in a format that mirrors our other policy documents. And we will be sharing that out as soon as we have finished our initial discussion on the draft. The regional planning commissions met recently, and I attended their meeting, or some of their staff met in a statewide meeting. And we had asked for a couple of revisions to the checklist. One being that we would like the narrative not to be optional, that they include narrative that describes how each goal or each statutory goal or each element of the plan are addressed by their plan. So instead of it being optional, it will no longer say that. It will just say narrative. So there was another change. Do you remember what it was, Sarah? It was minor. Oh, there was a typo. There was a typo in one of the statutory references, so they fixed that as well.
I think there was also moving EJ up in the document too. It was relatively minor as
Oh,
well.
yeah, there was, you're right. There was a duplication of some language for how they were to meet the environmental justice obligations. So those corrections were asked for and agreed to. Any questions on regional plan review progress? Okay, let's move on to Tier 1A, Sarah.
So I'm in a little bit of a holding pattern, waiting for Rebecca to do some proofing before I have a 5-page memo that's going to go outward facing to VAPTA for sort of comment on the framework. I'm anticipating getting some questions from them, and hopefully that will help shape things. I think also on communications, I'm continuing to pull together some different pieces. I can give a quick, maybe I should give communications update under operations, budget, and legislative updates.
Oh, let's do that. Makes sense. Any questions on Tier 1A? I'll just note, Sarah, that Ed Bove, who works for the city of Rutland, has asked to have a meeting to ask some questions about the Tier 1A process, and maybe I can direct him to you, or maybe we can both participate.
So what I'd encourage is Kate McCarthy of APTA right now is pulling together a whole list of questions.
Okay.
And trying to make sure duplicates that allow us to sort of answer in mass. I think there's going to be, once I get this outward facing document out to people, I think there will be opportunities for more specific questions or meetings after that. But I think trying to like whittle some of these down, because I think a lot of these are duplicative and we could be meeting with a lot of potential Tier 1A communities. If we were to extend that offer of a meeting to all communities that had questions, more than happy to, but I'd like to try and get out this first round to see if we can try and taper down the number of questions. I think the other thing that I'll throw out too is communities are starting to have questions about what it means for them to take over enforcing Act 250. And that's something that I've talked to Pete and Allison about, and we'll be looking into also putting that into like an FAQ to people, as well as how to check and see how many Act 250 permits are within their communities and potential Tier 1A areas.
Who was gonna do that work? Compile
So
the
I had
numbers,
a-
I mean,
About which portion?
about numbers. How were you gonna compile the numbers? Sorry,
So
of permits?
in terms of, that's going to be an FAQ about how to be able to do your own research on it and query the ANR Atlas online, as well as our Kronos database to determine numbers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions on Tier 1A? Nope. Okay, let's move on to Tier 3, Alex.
public meeting, public engagement session happening on Thursday at 6 p.m. in Essex with the remote option, so folks around the state can participate without having to drive all the way to Essex. And Sarah will be there with me, so we'll have 2 board members listening in, answering questions, gathering feedback. The purpose is, as you all already know, is to get input from folks before we start drafting the Tier 3 rules. So I'll give an overview presentation and let the folks who are attending know a little bit more about what the working group of stakeholders has been talking about and some of the direction we might be heading in based on that feedback. And then we'll be soliciting feedback from community members as to what areas they think should or should not be considered for Tier 3 designation. I'm also assembling GIS data. So ANR and our folks at ADS who work with ANR, are the keepers of all of that. So later today, I'll be sending them my ask for data, and we'll be using that to sort of visualize where some of the areas are and how the overlaps work between these areas that have been coming up at the stakeholder meetings and whatever suggestions come up this Thursday.
Okay. Any questions for Alex? Okay. Appeals study update, Brooke.
So we were able to secure a larger room on June 12th from 1 to 4 p.m. for our next stakeholder meeting, and that's going to be at the Vermont State University Randolph campus, formerly VTC. And in the meantime, this gives us opportunities to kind of dig a little deeper. We're sending out some homework assignments over the next few weeks. Last week, we sent out David Mears's comments because he was not able to make stakeholder meeting number 2. And he really had some very thoughtful and relevant comments, directly responsive to the conversation that had been going on, because we had such great notes as we did for the first meeting. Thank you, Alex, this time, and Janet the first time. They were nice and comprehensive and gave him a full flavor of the conversation. So really great comments, and if when Alex P gets back, she will put those up on the web. We also provided some other materials from research that Allison had done, our general counsel. Pete, our executive director, had a great idea about to bring up the topic of Rule 15 joint hearings, which is a mechanism that the district commissions can utilize now to hold joint meetings so that if another government authority is in agreement at the district commission level, A&R permit could be heard at the same time, that kind of thing. And we heard a lot about that in the last stakeholder meeting about trying to align the A&R or municipal permitting at the actual trial stage, not just on appeal. So that was really a great rule to point out, because sometimes you forget about those mechanisms that are used rarely. And then we also had our Associate General Counsel, Jenny Ronis, has compiled stats for the past 2 years on what kind of appeals there are, because there were a lot of questions about, we showed statistics about how many cases would go up, have been going up on appeal. And we are digging deeper into categorizing those because there's interest in knowing who's appealing them, as well as what type of housing appeals they are. Are they single family homes? Are they priority housing projects? So we sent out some data that Jenny had assembled, which was really helpful. and gives us a breakdown of those very topics that we were getting questions about. So we have a great team. They've done a lot of work, and being able to use all of that data that sometimes is real drudgery for our people to have to keep track of. It's really useful in this study, and I want to thank them very much for all of their efforts, because I think it really sheds light on what the context as well as the volume of cases that we're looking at, because it really informs the conversation.
Thanks. Any questions for Brooke? Hearing none. Let's move on to wood products. Kirsten.
So we had the second sort of all hands on deck stakeholder group meeting last week. Brooke attended, Pete, Maddie was our great tech support and note keeper, and Allison also was able to attend remotely. And did receive one legal question that I heard her say she's going to follow up on too. It wasn't as well attended as the first meeting. There was quite a bit of last minute sort of messages due to varying circumstances and a power outage. And there was one participant who's going to be following up with some further written comment, which I haven't yet received. And I would say in general that some of the ideas that some ideas got put back on the table and new challenges were made known. And so, and it was a long meeting. It was, over the 3 hours that was scheduled. We went like an extra 20 minutes late just to get through all of the ideas. So we did get through everything, which was great. What is happening now is that I'm circling back to the report, the report writing, and I'm about 80-90% done. Brooke has offered to take a look at it as soon as I, want to send it to her, which will be shortly, probably this evening. I've had to kind of regroup on some of the things that sort of came up anew. And I'm taking the general approach of being, I think, somewhat thorough with explaining what ideas, all the ideas that were looked at, and a suggested course of action, or why a particular idea wouldn't be advanced, partly for the benefit of the stakeholder group members who were not able to be in attendance at the second meeting. I think it's helpful. So you'll see it at some point. We are still planning to have it presented in advance of the meeting on May 29th. And I have a meeting with FPR tentatively scheduled for Thursday morning to go over a draft as well. So everything is kind of, there's a fair bit of moving pieces still. And I'm hoping, I'd love to have something out to you by the end of this week, but it may be, beginning of next week in advance of the meeting on the 29th, which I think is Thursday. So yeah, just be on the lookout for it.
Okay.
Yeah, getting there.
Any questions for Brooke? Sorry, Kirsten.
Not a question, just kudos. Good luck pulling it together. You're in that phase where it's not exploratory anymore. It's actually putting the report together and having an outline, and I'm excited to see it. And thanks for making progress on it so we can hit the deadline.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that.
Next up is if there are, oh, sorry, Brooke, I see your hand up.
I just want to add what a terrific job that Kirsten is doing on this. She has really dug down. Her file reviews were incredibly thorough, and her analysis and I'm really looking forward to seeing the draft. I know she's been working really hard on it, so really proud of the work that she's been doing, and I know that the report will show it.
So just to
Okay.
add something too.
Sure.
Yeah, so the study obviously is focused on wood products manufacturers and trying to find some efficiencies in Act 250 and perhaps beyond. But some of the things that have come up are topics that go beyond just wood products manufacturing. So just know that people are raising questions about, and I'll just kind of give you a for instance, like the use of administrative amendments, the standards for substantial and material change, how do the commissions use Rule 16D pertaining to an opportunity for a resolution of contested issues. So this is all going to be captured in the content that I'll provide to you for review and consideration, but it's relevant to wood products manufacturing, but some of it's very specific, and I've tried to capture that specificity within the different ideas too. That's directly relevant to wood products manufacturing, but some of it goes beyond. So I'll be interested to hear your thoughts as well.
Brooke?
Yeah, and it's been really helpful that I have been on the wood products study with Kirsten, because the issues that she's referencing, there is overlap with the appeals study because they are broader issues, like, how presumptions are dealt with, for example. That's something we're also talking about, the rebuttable presumptions. Is there a way to align the A&R permitting better with the Act 250 criteria, which are, big conversations about changing the statute, but they are things that we have seen raised in different venues. And so we're trying to also pick up on those in the appeals study. And I think it's really useful having been able to actually see that overlap, to be able to preserve that input forward and make sure that it's dealt with on a broader level.
Thank you, Brooke. Any further discussion on wood products? Okay, we can move on to operations, budget, and sorry, lost my spot. Legislative updates. Pete is unavailable today. There's COVID in the house. So the budget is at the governor's desk and it has our asks. So we're good there. I don't think we have any urgent operations or budget updates to provide at this time. So Sarah, you have a question?
No, I was going to chime in on communications.
Oh, right. Go right ahead.
So it's been great sort of pulling together what we have, and in doing that and asking questions, Maddie made a connection with the state of Vermont and regarding statewide communications and marketing. It's called a CAM group, and it's been previously put together for press releases, and they said it might be helpful to have somebody from the Land Use Review Board or staff join their group. So I wanted to put it out there. I'm happy to explore that and perhaps.
What's the group called?
Statewide Communications and Marketing Group. It's called CAM for short. Communications and Marketing.
Okay.
And I can forward around the email that Maddie got on it. They basically, I think, do a lot around putting things into press releases that go out into the RSS feeds to make sure that it gets circulated around and put out to all the different areas. So I don't know a lot, but I'm happy to look into it a little bit more, but wanted to first touch base back with the rest of the group.
I think that
Kristen.
sounds like a great idea. Yeah. Kirsten.
So, Alex has already, for the tier 3 work, put out the press release of the first public meeting opportunity for that study work. And so I'm guessing that we would do something similar for wood products, even though it's narrower, it's still a public meeting. And is that, what the board's pleasure is? And if so, I'm kind of wondering, Alex, and maybe Sarah, it's in this document, like how far in advance would we do that? Like, would we pull the trigger on issuing a press release? Like
So-
prior to the actual event date? Is there a standard for
Yes.
that or recommendation?
So I think Maddie's been doing some digging, and has a good draft paperwork. And I think we're sort of learning how to go about this. So I'd say is offline. Why don't you, Maddie, and I catch up? If I can help at all, I will. And I think Maddie can give you that context for him, and we're finding out who it needs to go to and when. So happy to help there.
Yeah, Kirsten, for the tier 3
Great.
press release, it was Maddie was able to leverage an email list of addresses from ANR, the list that they use. It has, if I remember right, about over 100 press related email addresses in it. Some of them are, multiple email addresses for the same media group. And that's what I use to send out the press release for the tier 3 public meeting that's happening this week. And so Maddie can help you with that. And in terms of how far ahead, more time is better. Some of these media groups would be able to jump on something in a day or two, like VT Digger or Vermont Public or some of the television stations, and others are, local or regional papers that might only be published once a week. And so, getting them a press release a week ahead is useless, but getting them a press release 2 to 3 weeks ahead might be more useful. So I think more time is better, but I wouldn't kill yourself. Like if you can get it out, 2 weeks or a bit more ahead of time, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. It looks like we have that public meeting on June 16th, according to our schedule. So, like right after Memorial Day might be a good time to hit them with a press release. The one piece of advice I would give you that I don't feel like I did a very good job on with the tier 3 press release is advice that comes from the chief marketing officer for the state. They have a nice website where they talk about all this stuff. And they make it pretty clear, like, there's a lot of news out there. And so you need to have an opener that grabs their attention, a subheader or a title for this thing, first sentence that really tells media why they should be interested. And that can be hard for us. We're doing technical stuff and we don't really want to throw in hyperbole just to gain eyeballs, but there's a balance there to walk between using a little bit of that. So yeah.
Thanks, Alex. That all makes sense.
Sorry, Brooke, your hand's up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Alex. So the public meetings are we supposed to be at those? Are those going to be board meetings or just public meetings? I wasn't sure because.
Good question, Brooke. So the public engagement session for tier 3 on Thursday is not a board meeting, and we don't want it to be a board meeting. So don't come. It's just Sarah and me that are taking that one on, kind of like your stakeholder meetings. But the June 16th Wood Products meeting that Kirsten will be leading us on, that's a regular board meeting. That's a public meeting in front of the board, essentially. And eventually on tier 3, we will have one of those too, but it won't be till January.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm planning when we get the draft report out. Same thing for the appeals study. Okay, thanks. And can you write my press releases?
We can all work collaboratively on that, I think, without running afoul of open meeting law. Happy to help.
Great. Any further questions on communications or any more input on, oh, Sarah, your hand's up. Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say that the idea is that we are going to have a process for press releases that's more updated. There is an existing one that we're sort of tweaking to make sure, because press releases should really not go out without some sort of approval from Pete or some other authority and coordinated. So we will hopefully be working to have an updated guideline on that. I think this has brought up some really great questions. That would be nice to have some structure to, and also document some of these best practices. Maddie did a huge job with helping. There was a really old list that things went out to that she cleaned up quite a bit. So kudos to Maddie for helping with this, and hopefully we'll have a process for everybody else sometime soon.
Definitely interested in that, what you hear from that group, Sarah. So I know you'll be bringing it back to the board, but I like communications. So if you get any nuggets out of the CAM, I'd be interested in hearing about them.
Great. Any more on communications? Before we move on, I just want to, I see that Rachel has joined us and just wanted to ask Rachel if you had any operations or budget updates.
I do not have any today.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any further discussion on that item, agenda item? Okay, let's move on to discussion and possible action on appeals enforcement and attorney-client memoranda. Sarah.
I would motion that the board find that premature public knowledge of attorney-client privileged communications, as well as pending and probable appeals and enforcement actions, would place the board at a substantial disadvantage, and that we enter executive session to discuss these matters.
Thank you.
Second.
And thank you, Alex. Any discussion? None. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I
Hi.
That is unanimous. We will leave this meeting, go into executive session, and come back to this meeting when we are done with executive session. See you on the other side. Okay. Oop. We are all 5 present. And, we have a motion in enforcement case number 2024-84. I believe from Sarah.
I move to authorize enforcement to transmit a proposed assurance of discontinuance with directive to number 1, obtain an after the fact land use permit, and number 2, pay a $2,000 civil penalty along with $1,322.96 to recoup Blurb its enforcement costs. In the case of enforcement case number 2024_084 Fable Farm Barnyard.
We have a second on that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Any discussion? None. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I
I,
Oh, Alex. Surprised. It was unanimous after all. Then you, Alex, may have a motion on case number 4 of this year. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, Sarah, is your hand still up or is that left over?
no, I'd like to make an enforcement case on or another motion on the next item. Enforcement case number 2024_106.
Can we do number 4 first? Just because of the order in which we took them
Okay.
as the way they are
Understood.
in the skeletal minutes here. So, Alex, go ahead.
I move to authorize enforcement to transmit a notice of alleged violation with compliance directives to the respondent in enforcement case 2025_004.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brooke. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And then next was the docket number 23 ENV 21. And I think Kirsten has a motion there.
Yep, I move to authorize a settlement of docket number 23-ENV-00021 that results in remand and administrative amendment of the permit issued by the District Commission to incorporate changes to the project plans agreed to on appeal by VTrans and appellants as discussed in executive session.
Thank you, Kirsten.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brooke. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That was 5. That is unanimous. Next, we have 24 ENV 00082. Alex?
Right, in docket number 24-ENV-00082, I move to approve and authorize council to file the stipulated motion as discussed in an executive session.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Kirsten. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That is 5 ayes. That is unanimous. And next we have 24 ENV 00086.
Yep, I have a motion in that. In docket number 24-ENV-00086, I move to approve and authorize council to file the motion for a stipulated judgment order as discussed in executive session.
Okay,
Second?
was that Alex?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? None. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And finally, enforcement case number 2024-106.
I move to authorize enforcement to transmit a notice of alleged violation with compliance directives to the respondent in enforcement case 2024_106.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you, Alex. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And I believe we have an abstention. Kirsten?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have 4
And-
ayes and an abstention. The motion passes.
Just mention, please, Janet, that it's from a recusal.
Okay,
Right, and
Um,
also,
I'll let Kirsten say that.
right, I've recused myself, and also I did not attend the executive session concerning this portion of enforcement matters. Or executive session concerning enforcement case 2024_106.
Got it. Putting it in the minutes here. Okay, I got it. And that's all I have for our meeting today. Sarah,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Brooke. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Maddie.